So we are going live now again today with another emotional intelligence. Here's Carmen Sauchuk and Randall Griffith. And today we're going to continue talking about emotional intelligence, anxiety, a little bit. I'm going to touch up a little bit on depression. And I do want to touch up on the criticism aspect of what people do. It's very easy for us to criticize what happens outside of us. It's easy for us to, when we are in anxious states or in depressive states or in just stressful states, when we are overwhelmed, we people seem to find it more natural to criticize the outside world. The outside world is their environment, whether it's people in front of them, or whether it's events, or whether it's the TV, or whether it's a kitty cat or a puppy dog, or whatever pet they have at home. Somehow that seems to come more natural to some people, and to some extent it's understandable, because what happens when we are in stressful states like that, stress, overwhelmed, anxiety, depression, when we happen to be in those states, the survival mechanism kicks in. And survival mechanism says, run your anger and watch out for what's out there, and watch out for your environment and save yourself, survive. Let the anger run, let the adrenaline run through your body and survive. And that implies making sounds through your mouth, screaming, right? So when we are not aware of that, when our emotional intelligence is at a lower level, and oftentimes even the most developed, the most skillful people in emotional intelligence, sometimes we just trigger, but let's just keep it simple for right now. When our emotional intelligence is lower, we are going to respond, we are going to react instead of respond. And it makes it difficult for everybody. It makes it difficult for you, it makes it difficult for them, it makes it difficult for everybody. Now, when it comes to emotional intelligence is a subset of social intelligence and a class of personal intelligences. Now, every single person has multiple intelligences. Back then, how many years ago, only the IQ, intellectual quota, used to be measured and highly rewarded, highly regarded, and as an IQ. So nowadays, it's not that case. And I'm not saying that's to take down anybody with a high IQ, because I happen to have a high IQ. So I'm not taking down anybody with a high IQ. A high EQ, a high emotional intelligence quota, it's such a requirement nowadays that without increasing your emotional intelligence, I don't know how you're doing in this speed of life lately. There's so much changes, there's so much newness. It's a lot to grasp, it's a lot to manage, it's a lot to navigate. So emotional intelligence, it's unlike IQ, unlike intellectual quota. Intellectual quota is rather something that you're born with and you have it in your gene, or it can be academically trained, right? Emotional intelligence, on the other hand, has nothing to do with your genes, nothing to do with your talents, has nothing to do with your academic training, none of that. Emotional intelligence, it has a unique explanatory variance over the above general intelligence and above your personality. So your personality has nothing to do with your emotional intelligence either. But elevated emotional intelligence will affect your personality and will have you be more pleasant, will have you have a more pleasant personality, right? And the difference between emotional intelligence and the general intelligence or personality is that emotional intelligence is trainable. Yeah, it's trainable, and it's not something. Emotional intelligence is not taught in schools as a curriculum, and nowadays where you're going to find emotional intelligence training. It's with personal coaches like me and Randy. And hypnosis, on the other hand, it's been a tremendous tool since the beginning of ages, since way before psychotherapy. Hypnosis has been that which has helped people elevate their emotional intelligence. And also, emotional intelligence is being argued that is the key to life success. And everybody measures success in life a bit differently. Some people want to have a big house, big car, big title, academia, a PhD, double PhD, and so on. That's how they measure success. And some people measure success by having a successful family, a happy family. Other people measure success by doing what they love for a living, even if they don't make a lot of money. Other people measure success by having a smaller house and not having a mortgage to worry about. So success in life, it's relative, and measuring with somebody else's standards, measuring yourself with somebody else's standards, I always caution people about it. Yes, there are standards and there are measurements, and yes, please use those measurements and look in the environment. And you want to be normal, you want to be somewhat normal, yeah. But to measure yourself with somebody else's standards to the effect that it takes down your value, that it takes down your self-esteem, your self-worth, that's a no-no. That's a stopping point. That's an alarm system. For example, if you're in a family, I'm going to keep it simple. This is okay. Now bring your family to see it. Okay, we're going to bring family a little later. If you happen to be in a group of people, that some of these people have some titles, their work manager, supervisor, manager, director, whatever, or they have a master's, PhDs, and you happen to have just a bachelor and be just an employee, yeah. That doesn't mean you are just a person, right? So, especially at workplace, there's all kinds of jobs are needed and require. And at work, if everybody would be a boss, then there would be no employees. Yeah. So at work, it takes more employees than bosses. Now, they're both required. One is not better than the other. It's just that being a boss, being a manager, supervisor, director, and all that comes with a lot of responsibilities that other employees might not be interested in taking on those responsibilities because they might have little children at home that they need to dedicate more time to raising kids as opposed to spending 60 hours a week at this fancy job at work. Just an example. So it's very important that you learn not to measure yourself by the title you carry at work. And if somebody measures themselves like that, that's okay. It's how they measure themselves. But for you to take down your self-worth because of somebody else's title, please don't do that. And if you need a bit more coaching into how exactly to not do that and how to elevate your self-worth and self-confidence, self-esteem, and therefore elevate your emotional intelligence, I'm definitely here to help guide you. Because one of the most elevated, emotionally intelligent people are those people that have spent time on themselves through self-help, self-development, personal development, therapy, meditation, hypnosis, those kind of things. And how does that work? Well, it works in many different ways. But in a big general scale, if you are to look at people that are admired nowadays, those successful people that are admired, look at lead singers and look at athletes. What do you think these lead singers and performers, these big artists and athletes, what do you think they have done since they have been little kids? They have trained and trained and trained and developed themselves for that skill, and not only for that particular skill, but develop their emotional intelligence. So then when they get to be out there performing their mastery, whether it's sports or performance, artistic performance, they shift into their mastery through the use of the emotional intelligence. They shift into their mastery and they give. Yeah? And then here you are admiring all that. And also here you are thinking, oh, that's so simple. Anybody can do that. I don't know if anybody can do that. But to get to that mastery, to get to that, oh, that's easy, anybody can do that, it takes work, right? It takes work. And sometimes we don't have, a lot of people don't have the time to do this work on themselves, because they're busy raising kids, they're busy going to school, they're busy with so many other things. But lately, if you don't spend time on elevating your emotional intelligence, you are just going to end up being more stressed and more overwhelmed and more overwhelmed. And a lot of people have come to the realization later on in life that they probably should have spent more time on simple things, on enjoying life, as opposed to working so hard for a title or a big house or a fancy car or a fancy title and all that. Because the fact of the matter is that you work hard to acquire the big house, the big car, the big title. If the title goes away, the house goes away, the car goes away, then what? Right? But when you work on your emotional intelligence, you invest in yourself, you elevate your emotional intelligence, and then life as it is as complicated and as hard and difficult as it is, it's not going to be as difficult to navigate, and it's actually going to be more joyful, right? So then any title can go away, any big house can go away, any fancy car can go away, and you're still going to be happy and maybe happier. Yeah. So let's give it to Randy a little bit and have Randy enlighten us with his experience or from his teachings. All of Randy, let us have your wisdom.
My wisdom. You don't have to catch a ball that's thrown at you. Just because a ball's thrown at you, you don't have to catch it. And if you live by that rule, you'll have a happy life. Is that good? I have a question, though, I want to ask you, Carmen. You don't have to answer it now, but you mentioned a couple of things. There's less stress, feeling less overwhelmed. What else, in your opinion, are the benefits for having emotional intelligence? You don't have to answer it right now, but I just kind of wanted to, I was just thinking about that. But what I did want to say is one of the things that I'm becoming aware of, and it does happen as people age and get older, is like you were saying, Carmen, it's not can we accept change and what happens if this ends or that ends, or what happens if this changes or I don't get this or that. one of the laws that we have to live with, in my opinion, is that everything changes. Everything changes all the time. It's nature. Things are going to change. And at the risk of sounding a little morbid or morbid, everything ends. Everything starts, everything has a middle, and everything eventually ends. And it's okay. We can still have a very satisfactory life. In fact, there's some people that argue our life is much more satisfactory as soon as we accept that things are going to change and things are going to end. That, yeah, we can have the wonderful, great sports car, for instance, or we can have, to say like you're talking about, having a title, being a boss of something. It all ends. Eventually it changes and ends. Well, that's depressing. It really isn't, because once we can accept that that's going to happen, then we can learn to live with the flow and understand that things should change. Things sometimes get better, sometimes they get worse, but things will, the flow of nature is that things will start, they'll peak, and then they'll end. And in my opinion, that gives me, or I would like to convey that would give a lot of people some hope, because that means not only do wonderful, great things end, but bad things and troubles and difficulties and stresses and troubles and disasters and horrible, horrible things eventually will end. Eventually, Ukraine something will happen. It may not be what we want, but it will end at some point. Some point, somehow, something's going to end. Being facetious, but that kind of stuff, the pain and the agony, for instance, that they're going through, or I think, just our own personal pain and difficulty and problems, even if we've gone through some horrible, horrible stuff. I think of those parents that have lost children recently in the shootings, or just for anything. A lot of kids die every day, of course, from horrible, horrible things. People can accept that this can end, but it also can start the new beginning. And I'm not trying, I hope that doesn't sound like I'm being, there's a word, I can't think of it. But
no, you don't sound like that, not at all. This is factual, and this is a fact. As life begins and life ends, we are all but a battery. A human body is all but a battery. And you bring out a very good point. When we go through difficult times, it's good to remember that this storm shall pass. And the same goes with lots of happiness. And it's not realistic to expect to be super happy all the time and all the time. And yeah, it's just it's not realistic. And people there is a gradients to happiness, and there are gradients to stress and overwhelm as well. So riding the waves of life, I think it's what makes life for a smooth ride, riding the waves of life. But what happens, and a lot of people end up with a lot of stress and a lot of difficulties, is that we blame the outside, and sometimes it is, but not all the time. We blame the outside for what happens inside of us, right? And of course, the outside affects us. But to a great degree, we have a choice, like you said. Not every ball that's been thrown, you don't have to catch every ball that's been thrown at you. And that carries so much wisdom. And what it means that you it's possible for you to not be affected by everything that happens, or to not be so affected by everything that happens. So everything is a gradient. It's not either or. I like it, I don't like it. I'm going to be upset, I'm going to be happy. It's not as simple. Nothing is as simple. So, yeah, sometimes you have to make choices to do or not to do, to be or not to be, to make a choice, to go here or go there. That's true. You have to make choices, but nothing is ever as simple in life. And if we focus like on, it's like, oh my God, now I'm going to a disaster, I'm never going to get out of it. That's not true. You're going to a disaster. It's hard. It sucks. Let's help you get through that. So you rise up a little bit and then go through the waves again, because no wave ever stays down all the time. That's why a wave, as it goes up and down, up and down, up and down, just like day and night, day and night, day and night. And the factual thing is that the sun is always sunny somewhere. The sun always shines. It's the planet that revolves around the sun that keeps the sun from shining on the city that you're in. And then we have clouds that cover the sky that interfere with the sun's rays reaching to where you live. So if you take that as a metaphor for life, and kind of think of it like, oh, this is a dark moment in life. Yes, it is, but so are days and nights, right? So as it is a night, so will be a day. And if you have a cloudy moment in life, these clouds will eventually pass. No storm lasts that long. It might go on for a few days and it might devastate a lot, but that too shall pass. So just have that in perspective as much as you can, right? Then if you cannot, then reach out to us and we'll work with you one-on-one, and have that help you ride those waves a bit more smoothly. What I want to touch upon is criticism. Criticism is good as long as it's constructive. But the moment it's not constructive and the moment it begins to not destroy, but denigrate someone's character or someone's value, then at that moment, criticism happens to be at the bottom of the bottom of the bottom of the bottom of the emotional intelligence. So yeah, we're going to criticize something, and we have to have constructive criticism, take it as a feedback. It's like, oh, you can improve here, or this can be better, or this wasn't. There are standards all over your life, and there's relationship, and in a relationship, the relationships are the most complicated things to do in life. And there's the dance with relationship, and one leads, one dance, and then another one leads, and another one dance. So it's a constant ebb and flow. But to begin to evaluate a person because of their title, or because of the size of the house, or the label of the car, or the color of their hair, or talking the color of the skin, oh my God, or the wrinkles, or shape, oh my God, I'm not gonna even get on a weight, the size of the person. Oh, that's very touchy for Romanians. To begin to devalue these people because of their physical aspects, when you do that, and when you do that because you're the one thinking it, just know that at that point you are at the lowest of the lowest of the lowest of the emotional intelligence scale. It's simple as that. Now, nobody's gonna know but you. And that matters because you know. And how do you get out of it? Don't do it. Don't value someone because of their outside appearances. Like even with the vaccine, I have friends that want to vaccinate, and I had friends that didn't want to vaccinate, and some friends that didn't want to vaccinate started to explain to me why they didn't want to vaccinate, and my response was, what do you do with your body? I respect your choices, what you do with your body. What matters to me is how you treat me. So if it's important for you to keep the 6 feet distance when we meet, then that's how we are going to do our friendship. If it's important for me to keep my mask on when we meet, then that's how we do our friendship. But we're not going to judge one another based on things you don't have a lot of control of, but how we behave, we do have control on how we behave. And to behave better, we go about increasing the level of emotional intelligence. So we learn how to better dance with people in our lives. Right? Randy?
So better dancing with people in our lives, less stress, less overwhelm. Are there other benefits that you see with emotional intelligence? And that you've seen yourself? I mean, that you've seen people get?
Of course, it's just an increased well-being overall. It's the relationship are part of your well-being, and it's increased health. Your health increases the moment you decrease stress. You increase well-being. The moment you decrease stress, you increase the capacity of your immune system to fight against diseases, to better protect you, because we have limited control over what happened inside the physical body, other than how we think, how we respond to the environment, and to some degree how we feel. Yeah, we can choose to feel a certain feeling. If you want to spend time, so I get to teach you these techniques, because there are techniques available, feelfulness, thought, feeling practices. This is something that can be taught. It's not just theory. I don't know how people would elevate their emotional intelligence by reading books. It's emotional intelligence has to do with experience. Just like in psychotherapy, you go talk about your problems, and you talk about your problem, you will come up to some realization. In hypnotherapy, for the most part, with the right hypnotherapist, you're going to have a set of experiences that are going to present you with ways that are good for you to find ways that are good for you, comfortable for you to experience life from. And nobody can teach you what's comfortable for you, because they can change from day to day, from week to week. It can change in the ebbs and flows. So this is where hypnosis and workshops and experiences, they reveal those hidden aspects to you, because we don't have time to pay attention to that, or we think we know it all. No, we don't know it all. And we know a lot, and we take that in consideration, but then things happen and a lot of things change. And then we are constantly adapting, and we don't even realize how much we've adapted, how much things have changed, and how much we've adapted, and how much we have changed. And then we say, well, I've been married for 20 years and we don't get along. Well, of course you don't get along, because both of you have changed over the past of 20 years. So are you changing together, or are you changing separate, and are you accepting each other's differences and dancing the dance of life as best as you can? Again, going into the criticism arena, that is their fault and that's not good enough. Oh, that's not good. Oh, who that wrote the book? Oh, that's not a good book. Then you go write a book. That's not good. Let me see, how many books did you write? Right? And the restaurant critics, it just occurred to me the other day that so many restaurant critics and in the restaurant industry, that restaurant critics are such a big deal. Well, those critics, yes, they're a big deal, but they eat and they taste the food and they look at the presentation. And you know what? Even through that, when they go to critique their food, their taste buds might change from day to day. They might run COVID. COVID showed us that you lose your taste. And then you might have COVID and not even know it, and you might affect your taste just a little bit. And then there you go, criticizing, because you're a famous restaurant critic, and you go criticizing someone else's food, and your taste buds have been altered by the virus or by something else. If it's not COVID, it can be something else. And then here you are giving the critique, and then you destroy people's life, and then you think you're the one that knows it all. And in fact, you see, everything gets interrelated and it's interconnected, and every molecule affects other molecule. So I would say a little bit easier on the criticism. Just, is it down, because it's kindness is free, compassion is free, giving compliments is free. It really doesn't cost you, and it uplifts you as well. So if you don't like how a person looks, and you might really not agree with their haircut or their choice of glasses, or God knows what you might not agree with how somebody else in front of you looks like, you can just say, oh, that color looks good on you. And you have not lied. Yeah, because that color looks good on them because they like it. They put it on, or that's the cleanest piece of clothing they have. They haven't had time to do laundry. So they look good with that color on. And don't worry about that color looking bad on them, because somebody will tell them. They have best friends, especially the Romanians. They're going to tell them, dude, no, that color not for you. So instead of critiquing, oh, that's what you're wearing, that color looks good on you. Randy?
So, what a lot of what you're saying is not only how to give criticism, but it's how to accept criticism. What to do if somebody doesn't approve of you as, not you, but I mean as yourself as a person, or something that you've done, or criticizes something, or is not approving, irritates you, that kind of thing. Is that so? It's kind of what an emotionally intelligent adult is going to handle criticism differently than somebody whose emotional intelligence skills are not very defined.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. It's just like with wisdom. When you gain wisdom, and that usually comes later in life, with wisdom you begin to know what's more important and what matters and what doesn't matter as much. And an emotionally elevated a person will take criticism as thank you very much, and they will understand that that's your opinion and that has nothing to do with me. If Randy, you don't like my black blouse and blonde hair, oh well, you don't like them. What are we gonna do about it? That's a big disaster. You don't like it. It actually looks pretty good, but you don't like it. You're entitled not to like it. On the other hand, Randy, I think you look really good today. I like the color of the blouse you're wearing. I think it brings out the color on your face, and it looks cheerful on you.
Is that true, or are you just saying that?
Okay, so how was it? How did you receive that? See, how did you receive? Did what? Did it good?
But she's well, she's probably lying.
No, because you smiled. See,
Yeah.
you smile before you had a chance to think, oh, this is a phony compliment. You smiled. So there were several processes that went in at the same time. You smiled because it felt good, right? Yeah. So doesn't matter if I'm lying. So of course I'm not lying, but does it matter? It matters not. It matters how it makes you feel, right? So why would I say something? And there are people that do say, and it's not just limited to how they look, but giving a compliment to someone on something about that color looks good on you. Keep it on that, right? Because you're never gonna lie with the color looking good on that person. It's gonna take you at work with your boss. Oh my God, that's gonna work tremendously. Oh, I like that color. And then when you say that, people start telling you where they bought it and how much they paid for it. Like women usually do that because they feel good about getting a good deal on something that is so nice. And I say, oh, you too can have it if you like it. Let them say that because they feel good about it. So let them feel good about it. And you too feel good that they feel good. So when you feel good and they feel good and then everybody feels good, that's a good life. That's elevated emotional intelligence. Instead of saying, oh, this doesn't look good. Oh, that's it. You bought it at Walmart. What's wrong with Walmart? Nothing wrong with it. Oh, you bought it there. Oh, yeah, that's it. That's all you did. Well, yeah, I'm happy with that. I'm happy with what you did. That's what matters. Randy?
I wish I had I wish I was more aware of this. One of the places that everything kind of boils down to, the survival of the fittest, besides the jungle, is the dance floor. There's the jungle, and then there's the dance floor, and they're very, very similar. You can get killed in either one of them. But one of the things that I really struggled with, and I wish I'd been more emotionally intelligent, like you're talking about now, was learning how to, do certain dance. It is extremely challenging to the ego, especially of men, and there are certain dances that are different. Down here in South Louisiana, in Cajun dancing, everybody dances with everyone, period, end of story. And they get very upset, they being the people that dance, get very upset if you're at a Cajun dance and you're not dancing. And they don't care if you know how or don't know how, you're there to have fun and dance, and you're going to dance. They don't care if you dance well or not. And it's such a wonderful, full of life experience. Then there's dances like tango dances, where if somebody doesn't know how to dance that particular dance, well, don't even look at me and don't touch me. There's no way I'm dancing with you. I'm only dance with the best. And men and women. That's not just women. That's men and women. And we would go. I'd have. We would go to dances and see young people, or see people brand new to tango, for instance. A woman who didn't know how to dance, that was beginner, just like everyone is at one point. And the good male dancers wouldn't dance with her because she was a beginner. And it really took a lot of ego strength not to take that very personally. And so it was a real test. I wish I'd had more of those skills, more of these skills then, because I think it would have helped me be more accepting of what the reality of what is happening there is. It was a good metaphor for life. In other words. That's why I think the people, the Cajun culture so many people are attracted to it because it's so accepting, non-judgmental. The last time I went to was way before COVID, but there were people like 85, 90 years old dancing on the dance floor. I mean, everyone was, children, adults, grandparents, and nobody cared how well you danced or not. And that kind of acceptance was a wonderful metaphor for that kind of thinking and culture. That's why a lot of people love South Louisiana so much.
Yes, and you bring out such a good point, a culture of acceptance, and a lot of spiritual circles they carry a culture of acceptance. I myself, I was, now that you mention it, I was in awe of how respected I felt in a group of full of strangers that accepted me, speaking with a broken English, and accepted me as I was, not knowing what they do, not knowing how things go, but accepted me, gave me a hug, talked to me, answered my questions. To me, was such a cultural shock many years ago when I started visiting the spiritual circles, and because of that, I never left. And I would encourage anybody and everybody to, I'm not saying that these people are perfect, because there's no perfect circle ever, but I would highly encourage everybody to find a spiritual, it can be a church. If you find a church, if you find people within that organization of the church that are non-judgmental, because a lot of churches, like people that belong to a church, they're very strict on what the church's beliefs are. So you can find any spiritual circle that is not necessarily religious, that you'll find a lot of acceptance. And I also found international circles, and later on in life I found those international circles to be very accepting as well. And I tremendously enjoy those experiences, because what happens in this international circles, people get together from all over the world, all different countries, and you are genuinely curious of how they do certain things in their country, or you want to hear the stories or their cultural customs. And through that experience, whether it's a half an hour or an hour experience, you get to experience yourself in acceptance. As opposed to, you go to Romanian circles, for example. I'm not going to talk about other countries. I know Romanians pretty well. Romanians has such a culture of division, the unity also, but division. And it's Romanians are highly patented in, they want to unite, they have a strong desire for union, but when it gets down to be united, the division of individual values and customs of regional values and customs come in the way. That's which is kind of natural with a lot of European countries, smaller European countries, but outside of that, even in diaspora, if you look at Romanian circles in diaspora, you will find that a lot of people are devalued based on the title they hold. And even if they come from Romania with an advanced educational degree, and they come over here and they choose to, for whatever reasons, we're not going into reasons, they come over here and they practice something other than their training from Romania, because it takes effort to get your studies from Romania to get them to be accepted over here. So you have to go through more studies, more exams and all that. So not everybody has the whatever it takes to do it. So I'm seeing people being devalued based on what they do for a living. And there are people that they know better. There are people that they happen to be in the behavioral health industry, yeah, or the health industry, that even those people that they know better, they still go about devaluing other people. So it's not healthy. And then I know a lot of Romanians come to me and they tell me, I don't want to go into the Romanian circle. I've been there and I walked away from Romanian community and I don't want to go back. And I said, I know, I understand you. And I said, this is what I do. This is how it works. And try this other community to see. Because there's a lot of Romanians that come to me and I say, well, I tried and I went there and I went there and I went there and I went for a little bit and then I got fried and then I'm out of that. I'm going to respect what they do. I'm going to support them from the distance, but I'm not going to involve myself with them. And that is very sad. That is very sad because there's a lot of Romanians are known to be highly resourceful. You just figure out a way, problem solver. You figure out how to do things, right? Even if you don't have enough resources, you figure out how to do it, and there's such a quality for Romanians. But in the process, there's a lot of zealousy, not jealousy, but it's zealousy. It's a lot of enthusiasm. Let's get it done. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. That in that enthusiasm, you end up hurting other people. You end up devaluing other people. Like somebody just shared a story with me that they were asked for input, and then they gave that input professional wise, right? Because the standards, profession have standards, and then not only wasn't value wasn't taken, it was all broken down, and then you don't want to give your input anymore. Or other people have given that input and never say, oh, that's all you give? Well, that's all I can give right now. Let me give you more next week. Would that be all right with you? I mean, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous to begin to devalue someone because of so many other things. And the sad part of it is that we are outside of the motherland, and Romanians enjoy dancing. Regardless of all the religions, when there is dancing, there's Romanian folklore dance. Everybody gets together and dances, and it doesn't matter how well they do it, but they get together and they dance and they enjoy. And there's a lot of joy into that, happiness and joy, yeah, and feeling good and all that. But devaluing people like that, we should be more united because we are here in diaspora and we need each other. There's certain values to you, Randy, like there's certain values and costumes with what you describe with Louisiana, with Cajun cultures and all that it's like you like them and you want to enjoy, those aspects. The same goes for Romanian too. I mean, you kind of want to speak the language. You kind of want to hear a joke. You can only say it in Romanian, and remember the times when only a Romanian would understand certain things. But then people find themselves like, no, I don't want to go around Romanians. I'm going to be devalued, and then Romanians that end up marrying other cultures, white people. I'm not going to even go to different color skin, because there are Romanians that have married a different color skin, and oh goodness gracious, that they're not participating in the Romanian community, right? It's not right. It's not right. And then also Romanians like, oh, if you come in the Romanian community, you got to speak Romanian. Well, I've been here for 30 years. English, it's kind of easier for me to express myself. I will speak Romanian to you, but maybe it's easier for me to, So that has gotten a little easier lately. But to devalue someone because of that it's at a lower emotional intelligence. And you and everybody would be more emotionally intelligent by acceptance and inclusion, not by exclusion. Because the paradox is that I don't know how I ended up talking about Romania. You brought up the Cajun culture and you got me going now, Randy. See, so the paradox with Romanians is that we have that anthem that says that where's there two, the power grows, and then the enemy gets smaller. It can quite exactly translate that. The Romanians will know what I'm talking about. So we have it in our culture. It's kind of an anthem, right? Unde doi puterea crește și dușmanul nu sporește. Yeah, where there's two, the power grows. Yeah, therefore unity, we have it in our culture. But then we go about devaluing other people. So it's such a paradox and such an incongruency. Lower emotional intelligence. So let's be a bit more emotionally intelligent and include as opposed to exclude. Because in my experience and in my training and through all of the coaching and therapy that I've done with people, those people that go about devaluing someone, they do that because their value, it's not at that level. So then they need to bring someone else's value lower so that they feel at the same level. So if someone's value, you perceive someone's value to be at this level, how about you get to that level? How do you do that? With emotional intelligence? Yeah. And the very first thing you do, you accept each other's differences and you celebrate the other as a human being. As long as they haven't done anything to hurt you, I mean, they haven't pulled out a gun and shot at you, right? They haven't even touched you, right? So why would you devalue someone? Yeah, when someone is doing something, when someone is hurting somebody, yeah, throw them to jail. Yeah, let the system take care of that. That's not okay to hurt someone else. But we also hurt people when we devalue them, and there's little comments we make, and there's little body language that we make. It's like, oh, that's that, or that's not good, and there's that. I mean, look at my body language. I just said that's not good enough. It's like, oh, right. And you see that in a body language, maybe not tone of voice, but it's in the subtle. Well, I'm trained to recognize idiomotor responses. So I see that a bit more easily than other people, but you don't have to have training in idiomotor responses. People know it, they feel it, their gut feeling tells them that, no, that's just, it wasn't, I don't think I'm gonna go back. So that's sad. And hopefully this is constructive criticism. Hopefully this is not criticism, but awareness. Hopefully is this being brought up to your awareness, whether you're Romanian or maybe you're a different country, maybe it resonates with a culture that where you come from, and maybe this will speak to you in a sense of, oh, it never occurred to me. It's like, oh, I know what to do. I guess I could do better. I guess I could make a compliment on someone's looking like someone's having that color look good on them. I will never lie, but I will make a compliment and I will elevate my emotional intelligence just by that little fact, because that little compliment, oh, that color looks good on you, that means respect, that means acceptance, that means inclusion, it means so many other things. And by that small little thing, you might just make someone's day. Maybe someone just had a hard day at work. Maybe someone just, their day at work involved helping someone go through a very unhealthy, deal with an ugly health-related situation, right? And it just, nobody's doing anything wrong, but it was just hard to go through that. I mean, how many days did you not have at work, Rennie, when you had to deal with mental illness that you were at the verge of calling do I call the police? Do I not call the police? How do I handle that? So there was a hard day at work. So only for that reason, make a small compliment to someone. You're looking good. No, Andrew, you don't know how tired I am. Yeah, you do. So let them say whatever it is that they need to say. And a lot of people are not necessarily going to accept that compliment, especially women. That's okay. Go ahead and say something nice, something good. You look good today. So,
yeah, and it also it's not only a good deed, but it also gets a person in the habit of thinking of things differently. If a person's always thinking of criticism, and the first thing they think of is, I do it too. When they see something, is to be critical of it or to see what's wrong with it. I mean, one of the things people have pointed out to me forever and ever and ever, and they're right frequently, not always, but frequently, is like, well, you see the negative and the problems first, and that can be true. So doing what you're talking about, Carmen, helps change that habitual way of thinking and creates new ways of thinking and new ways of being. And some people say it even creates new neural pathways in the brain that create different feelings and create different internal feelings. I was looking for a quote, I couldn't find it, but there was a quote that I wrote down last year from a life coach that I saw online, and he said something along the lines of, I wish I had it exactly because he put it so well, but he said, what anybody says at any one moment is a direct reflection of how they feel about themselves at that moment. And I remember there was, I used to ride with the bicycle club here in my city. And I remember I was riding one time, we were stopped at a park resting, and I was riding on my phone. I had a phone, I've been using this for 10 years, not this phone, but this type of phone, where I can write a note on it. And I'm very addicted to it, use it constantly, very, very, very handy. And one of the leaders of the bike, the leader of the ride, came up and said something along the lines of, he saw me riding. He said, Stephen Jobs says that anybody that uses a pen is being stupid using a computer, using it on a phone. And what Steve Jobs said is, well, we don't need styluses, we don't need pens. We have our stylus here as a finger. And he misquoted him, but he said something along the lines of, Steve Jobs said it was really stupid to use a stylus and a pen with a phone. And what I didn't realize, what I realize now from what you said, Carmen, and what I didn't realize in this, that was a reflection of how what he was saying to me metaphorically was, well, you're stupid using that pen, aren't you? And at least that's what I heard. Maybe he didn't really mean it. But when I look back on it, I think, he had to be having really weird, uncomfortable thoughts about himself to want to pick on somebody like me about what I do with my phone. It was a reflection of how he felt about himself. He felt that he needed to try to put somebody down because, just like you said, Carmen, somewhere deep inside, and he turned out he's divorced. He was going through a bad divorce, kind of lonely, lives by himself, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So who knows, but but the emotional intelligent thing, I didn't say anything to him, but I thought emotional intelligent was, that's on him. That's not me. Because I was like, well, I didn't say anything to him. I didn't want to cause a scene, obviously, but it was like I took it like very personally. And that now I kind of wish I'd, been a little more intelligent, emotionally intelligent with it about it, and said, and thought to myself, that's a that's an unhappy person to want to pick on. You want to talk about how somebody uses their phone. I mean, isn't there anything else to talk about? We just had a beautiful bike ride, you know. So
Yes, yes, yeah. And you bring a good point, and I thought I made this point clear too. We're all going through difficulties, and instead of picking a fight when somebody's going through difficulty,
yeah,
let them be at the level to where maybe they just had a bad day at work that day. Maybe they just had a bad day in traffic. Maybe they just observed something that they've gone through, and that shook on their molecules, their system. Um, Things happen. Things happen that we don't have control over. So
all the time.
compassion is free, kindness is free, saying something nice, having something nice to say to someone, it's free. And in a family situation, there's a lot of magnetism involved. There's a lot of history, but there is a lot of hurts involved. It's like, you did this, well, that's what you did 20 years ago. And 20 years ago, it's a long time. 10 years ago, it's a long time. 5 years ago, it's a year ago, it's a long time nowadays, with all of the changes that we go through. So hanging on the past is important. History is important because we learn how not to do it. And then the future offers us the opportunity to do new and better ways. But what we learn from history, the most important thing we learn from the past is how not to do it. We learn how to do it, and there's a lot of rules and procedures and standards that get set up, but mostly don't do like the idiots that hurt other people, that kill children or kill people or abuse their wives or the children. Don't do like that, right? So from that, don't hurt others, don't kill people, don't hurt people. Get all the way to have them be included in your back of the hood. If you're Romanian in diaspora, be nice to all of the other Romanians in diaspora, regardless of what church they go to, regardless of what titles they have. Yeah, maybe you don't want to spend your weekends with, if you're college educated, you might not want to spend your weekends with someone that's not college educated. That's fine, how you spend your weekends, that's fine. But when it comes down to Romanian gatherings, to have so many people complain about, I don't want to go to Romanians. And this doesn't apply only to Romania. I talk about Romanians because I'm Romanian and I have direct experience. And, I have feedbacks from people that is just, it's not right. Right. So what it is for you to do to elevate your emotional intelligence, be accepting of others' differences. And when someone gives you something, say thank you. Don't say, oh, that's all. Well, that's all for right now. Next week, I might be able to give you more. And if you keep on complaining that that's not good, then I might not give you at all. So say thank you. There's a lot of people, a lot of Romanians don't know how to say thank you. They say, oh, okay. It's like you're expected to give, you're expected to provide just because you just well, no. If I'm giving something, I'm giving something. You don't have to write a big public letter. You don't have to build a statue after me, but can you say thank you? Because within the same organizations, there's lots of people that give maybe the same thing, but then more people are acknowledged that are giving and other people are not acknowledged that are giving. Now, that's not right. So acknowledge all of them. Yeah. And it can get very, very, very complex. But differentiating and devaluing people lately, that's happening. That is what I call the fame virus. It's so insidious in people's behavior. It's so insidious in people's thought, feeling patterns that now it drives people into specific behavior because of the fame status. It's ridiculous if you ask me. I mean, how famous is important or the value that I bring. Now, it's true that famous people may bring value, but they're not the only people that may bring value. So it goes again, Randy, I talked to you about it many, many times, the victim, rescuer, prosecutor triangle, the drama triangle, the narcissistic triangle, that it got into God knows how many eons ago got installed in a consciousness, and it keeps spinning and spinning and spinning, and then this need for fame lately with the technology and the social media and all of the platforms is it's causing a lot of distress to people. A lot of teenagers are feeling depressed and devalued because they don't look as good as other people. Well, you don't have to look as good as other people. Yeah. And by now, technology have learned to put on filters because you can't get the same lightning quality when you get in front of the camera. The camera takes out a lot of pixels and a lot of variations of colors, as opposed to when you have daylight. So technology by now they figure out how to put filters like Zoom. Me and Rennie, they have a filter, and hopefully everybody uses a filter because we don't have a studio production here to set up a bunch of lights around a little corner of the living room here to make a video. And then of course you don't have proper lighting is going to make you look 20 years older, and of course you don't like it, and then other people complain. So when you look at anything that's digital, a photo or a video, the light, it makes a difference. And too much light is not good. Too little light is not good. So thank God for technology. A lot of platforms have figured out how to apply those filters to make it more realistic, because in real life, that's what you look in real life when you're in daytime, right? So then you don't have a bunch of teenagers ready to commit suicide, or ready to withheld from socializing and ended up anxious and depressed. Randy?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think it's, and I don't know the Romanian culture at all, really, hardly. But I can't help but wonder if, Romanians over here, even if they've been over here 20, 30 years, I wonder if there's some survivor guilt, that we as Romanians can't be happy over here, can't be satisfied, can't be content because there are others still in Romania that are not happy, that are living in much more poverty than we are. So we can't really, for us to be happy and content with how this country has treated us, or how we've survived, how we've dealt in this country, is going to make us feel guilty because there are other. I can't help but wonder if that's maybe some of it. Maybe it's none, but I just wonder.
Well, that's definitely the case, but that might be a topic of discussion for a different podcast, not for tonight. That doesn't apply to what we talked earlier. But survival's guilt, it definitely applies to immigrants, and definitely applies to survivors. And Oh, that's definitely the case, but that's for next Wednesday. So should we wrap it up for tonight?
Yeah, I think we've made enough brilliant points for one night.
We have been brilliant tonight. All right, so we
I
made
want to overwhelm everyone with brilliance.
good. All right, all right. So Randy says we made some brilliant points, and we don't want to overwhelm anybody with more brilliance. All right, so hopefully this was useful tonight, and we are feel free to send us your questions. We are going to answer your questions in our next video cast, live, whatever, how many different terminologies now, there's you don't even know how to call it anymore. We like having you, your feedback. A lot of people send me a feedback through private messaging. I like getting your feedback, and I value your opinion and your support. And yes, let us have your questions, and we will address it. And again, hopefully this has shed some light and is helping you add, not necessarily change, but add a perspective through which you can experience life with more ease, more well-being, more ease, increased emotional intelligence, therefore more happiness. All right. So thank you, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.